The moment the agent scanned my boarding pass, her smile died. "I'm sorry, your ticket has been canceled." I felt every eye at the gate shift toward me. Confused, curious, entertained. My phone vibrated. "Mom. Hope you enjoy the walk home, you loser." Then another. "Dad. Maybe this will teach you your place." The airport didn't feel like an airport anymore. It felt like a stage where my parents had scripted my public humiliation. What I didn't know, what no one knew, was that this canceled ticket wasn't some last-minute cruelty. It was the first crack in a secret they'd been hiding for years. You are welcome. If you are just joining us, do WEL to subscribe and get notifications to all our mind-blowing stories. Before I confronted them, before the discovery that turned my entire childhood upside down, there was the long, painful walk home. And the email waiting on my laptop that would blow the truth wide open. Now here's where it all began. The airport was cold enough to make my fingers numb as I clutched my suitcase. This trip was everything I'd worked for. My first professional conference. My first chance to prove I wasn't the family failure they always called me. I confirmed my flight twice. Printed my boarding pass. Arrived early. Perfect. So when the scanner beeped red, I froze. The agent typed quickly. Her face softened. The kind of sympathy people give when they know something embarrassing is coming. "Your parents called at 6:12 a.m., she said quietly. "They canceled the payment attached to your reservation." My parents. Not the bank. Not a glitch. My own parents canceled the only opportunity one had. Before I could respond, my phone lit up like a cruel joke. "Mom. You really thought you could go without our permission? Walk home. Think about your place in this family." A laughing emoji followed. It felt like a slap. The 5-mile walk home shredded my feet. My suitcase thumped against the pavement with every step. Each sound reminding me how small they wanted me to feel. By the time I reached the driveway, the sun was setting and my phone was silent again. Inside, my parents sat comfortably on the couch, eating, laughing, not even pretending to care. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I went straight to my room, opened my laptop, and clicked my email. There, unread, time-stamped 1 hour before my flight, was a message that made my blood run cold. A message that proved the canceled ticket wasn't the real betrayal. It was just the beginning. I stared at the unread email in my inbox, the subject line taunting me. "Regarding Mayor Donald, as requested." My fingers trembled as I clicked it open. It wasn't from the airline. It wasn't from work. It wasn't spam. It was from a family counselor I had never met. And the message began with a sentence that punched the air out of my lungs. "We have processed your parents' request to restrict your independence for your own emotional safety. Please confirm that you agree to the limitations they submitted on your behalf." Limitations? Submitted by them? I kept reading, heart pounding. The email listed things my parents had claimed. Mayor is emotionally unstable. She is not responsible enough to travel alone. She suffers from impulsivity and poor decision-making. We remain her primary guardians due to her fragile mental state. Guardians? Guardians? I was 24 years old. They had told a professional, maybe several, that I couldn't function without them. They had filed paperwork to make it look official. My canceled flight suddenly made horrifying sense. They weren't trying to punish me. They were trying to control me. The email ended with, "Once confirmed, the guardianship review will proceed as planned." Guardianship. As planned. They weren't sabotaging a trip. They were sabotaging my entire adulthood. My legs went weak. They wanted legal control over me, my money, my choices, my future, wrapped in a lie that I was unstable. A lie they'd been feeding to professionals behind my back. A lie that would decide my life. And the worst part? At the bottom of the email was a PDF. Draft report, based on parental statement. I clicked it. And right there, in bold letters, was a claim that nearly made me scream. Mayor cannot be trusted with financial decisions due to past incidents of theft, manipulation, and emotional outbursts. Theft. Manipulation. Emotional outbursts. All fabricated. All signed under my parents' names. My vision blurred with rage. They didn't cancel my flight. They tried to erase my autonomy. But as I scrolled further, something else appeared in the report. Something so shocking it shifted the ground beneath me. A name. Someone who had secretly backed their claims. Someone I trusted. Someone whose betrayal would set everything in motion. The betrayal wasn't just shocking, it was suffocating. I shut my laptop, but the words kept burning in my mind. Cannot be trusted. Emotional instability. Theft. Manipulation. Every fiber of me screamed. 12 years of being the obedient daughter, of paying for everything, saving everyone else while my life remained on hold, all dismissed with a few cruel sentences. I couldn't breathe. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I stopped answering calls. I even ignored Marcus, my friend and voice of reason, who texted, "Are you okay?" No, I wasn't. I needed proof. I needed evidence. I needed control. So I started retracing every transaction, every favor, every sacrifice. Spreadsheet. Receipts. Screenshots. Emails. Bank statements. Every hotel, every ticket, every family emergency I'd paid for, meticulously logged. 12 years. $42,300 here. $15,800 there. $2,700 in missed wages. All of it added up. $327,450. Money they thought I'd given freely, without expectation, without ever imagining I'd ever come after it. I discovered the lawyer my parents used. A family attorney specializing in control and guardianship disputes. He was the one who had drafted that terrifying email, and he wasn't just a name. He was the linchpin in the plan to strip me of my independence. Then came the flashback. Me at 13, saving up birthday money to pay for my little brother's school trip while they spent my allowance on a weekend getaway. And another, last year, helping my mom pay off a credit card she had maxed out, only to have her roll her eyes when I asked for reimbursement. I realized something that made my stomach twist. They didn't just cancel my flight to humiliate me. They'd been manipulating me for years, conditioning me to feel grateful for scraps while feeding lies to lawyers, counselors, and anyone who would enforce their control. I clenched my fists. Rage was no longer a flicker. It was a weapon. I opened a blank email to my parents. Not yet to send. Not yet. I typed a single word. Okay. And then I smiled. Because this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The first strike was quiet. Surgical. Invisible. I didn't storm their house. I didn't shout. I didn't send a single accusatory text. I sent the first email. Not to my parents. To their lawyer. All 12 years of financial records. All proof of every favor and gift that had never been repaid. Each amount documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced. I requested formal repayment. Immediately, with interest where legally allowed. Then came the phone calls. My father's accounts. My mother's credit cards. My siblings' loans. I withdrew support quietly, removing myself as guarantor wherever I could. By the time their first call came, I was already steps ahead. Dad, unknown number. What are you doing? Call me back now. I didn't answer. Mom, voice trembling. How could you be so cruel? I replied ice cold. I'm just following Dad's instructions. Talk to my lawyer. For the first time, I drove past our old neighborhood. The house where I had grown up. The house I had saved from foreclosure more times than I could count. The house that had mocked my existence every birthday I'd spent working for them instead of celebrating myself. My father was at the window, phone pressed to his ear, pale. Probably calling the lawyer. Trying to understand why he no longer had control. I kept driving. Each action was deliberate. Each withdrawal calculated. Every step fueled by 12 years of humiliation, manipulation, and betrayal. And as I closed my eyes at the end of the night, I realized. This wasn't just revenge. This was reclamation. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. I was awake. But the hunt was far from over. Because as precise as my moves were, the email I had uncovered in Act 2 hinted at another player. Someone else who had helped orchestrate the lie. Someone whose betrayal ran deeper than I ever expected. And when that truth surfaced, it would force me to go even further than I had planned. It came late at night, a single notification blinking on my laptop. The draft report, the one that had terrified me in Act 2, had an attachment I hadn't noticed before. A PDF labeled, Internal Correspondence, Parents and Counselor. I hesitated. One click could confirm my worst fears. I clicked. Inside were emails spanning years, conversations I had never imagined existed. Mayor is dramatic. She'll calm down eventually and keep paying. We need to ensure she doesn't travel alone. Otherwise she'll embarrass herself again. Her financial independence must be restricted. She doesn't deserve it. Every message was signed with their initials, and the tone deliberate, cold, calculating. They hadn't just canceled my flight. They had plotted to control me for years. Every payment I made, every favor I performed, every yes I said had been logged, analyzed, and weaponized. My stomach twisted. I scrolled further. There it was, a mention of a third party, a lawyer they had secretly hired, one they trusted to validate their lies. He had backed their claims in the guardianship draft, citing fabricated incidents of theft and emotional instability. And then a sentence that nearly made me scream. We must ensure she doesn't discover the emails. The truth will ruin everything if she does. They never expected me to find it. They thought their control was invisible. It wasn't. For the first time, clarity replaced my rage. I understood everything. The canceled ticket, the cruel messages, the years of manipulation. I had been fighting ghosts my whole life, and finally, I had proof that the ghosts were real, and that they were human. I leaned back in my chair. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from power. I had a choice. Collapse under the weight of their betrayal, or use it. And in that moment I decided, I would reclaim every ounce of control they had tried to steal. Not with shouting. Not with drama. With precision. The hunt was no longer just about a canceled ticket. It was about reclaiming my life. And the first move in that reckoning would be strategic, devastating, and undeniable. Act 6, The Alliance, introduces someone who could either guide me or challenge my plans entirely. The next morning, I didn't leave my apartment. My laptop sat open, emails scattered like battlefield debris. I had traced every transaction, every loan, every favor they'd manipulated over the years. And yet something gnawed at me. I was alone in this fight. Alone, that is, until the coffee shop. I had gone there just for air, away from the walls that had begun to feel like a cage. I sank into a corner, hands wrapped around a cup of lukewarm coffee. My phone buzzed. Another work email. Another reminder that life hadn't stopped while I was untangling the betrayal. Family drama? A voice asked softly. I looked up. A man, maybe early 30s, kind eyes, a faint smile, stood holding a laptop under his arm. I wasn't eavesdropping, he said quickly, noticing my guarded stare. I just overheard. And well, you sound like you've been through it. I narrowed my eyes. Sound like what? Like someone trying to reclaim control, he said. Someone who's been used, manipulated, maybe even betrayed by the people they trusted most. The words hit too close to home. I'm Mayor, I said cautiously. Marcus, he replied, sitting down only after I nodded. I work with people who face financial abuse disguised as family obligation. People whose parents or siblings used them as a source of money, time, energy, validation, and then tried to erase them. I blinked. You're talking about me, I whispered. He smiled faintly. I know the feeling. Spent 15 years supporting my family. Was cut off when I tried to assert independence. Thought I was selfish for saying no. They didn't see it as love. They saw it as control. For the first time, someone saw me. Not my accounts, not my usefulness. Just me. I don't want to feel weak, I admitted. I don't want to be their victim anymore. But I also don't want to lose myself. Marcus nodded slowly. Revenge feels good. At first, it's thrilling. But when it's over, you can end up standing in the ashes alone, realizing the fire burned pieces of yourself too. I stared at him. The honesty in his voice, the absence of judgment, shook me. So what do I do? You fight, he said. But you set limits. You reclaim power, not become what hurt you. Revenge is a weapon, and like any weapon, it can cut both ways. We met again the next week, same cafe, same corner. I told him about the canceled flight, the emails, the guardianship plot. He listened. He didn't tell me to forgive. He didn't tell me to stop. He only asked one question. Are you doing this to get justice? Or to make them hurt like you hurt? I thought about my father's smirk at the airport, my mother's laughing emoji, the years of manipulation. I swallowed. Both, I admitted quietly. Marcus leaned back. Then at least be aware. There's a line between reclaiming your life and becoming the very people you despise. Know when to stop, or you'll end up justifying cruelty with pain. For the first time in years, someone validated my anger, but also forced me to confront the cost. And that cost would soon become unavoidable. The collapse came faster than I anticipated. By now, my moves had begun to bite. The canceled flight, the frozen accounts, the formal demands. The first tremors of panic rippled through my family. My father's business was hemorrhaging money. My mother's credit cards maxed out. My siblings were scrambling. Then the call came. It was my sister, her voice trembling. Synth. Mom, she can't afford her medication. The insulin she's rationing. Please. My chest tightened. I stared at the transfer button on my banking app. One tap could fix everything. One tap would make me the hero again. The daughter who always rescued them. But Marcus's words echoed. When you start using their suffering to make a point, you become what hurt you. I froze. I remembered every time my mother had watched my father scream at me for asking for lunch money and said nothing. Every birthday ignored, every achievement dismissed. I clenched my jaw. I didn't press send. 2 days later, the text arrived. Mom, hospitalized. Diabetic shock. She survived barely. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. I only felt the cold truth staring back at me. I had mirrored their cruelty. I was no longer just reclaiming power. I was proving them right. When I met Marcus, he looked at me with a mix of caution and concern. You crossed the line, he said. You're not freeing yourself. You're proving them right, that you've been waiting to strike. I shook my head. They used me, I said. And now I'm using them. He sighed. And that's the danger. The line between justice and revenge is razor thin. One wrong step, and you'll be indistinguishable from them. For the first time, I truly understood the cost. Revenge wasn't just about hitting back. It was about keeping control of your own soul, while dismantling theirs. And that realization would define my next moves. The knock on my door was hesitant, almost fragile. I didn't answer immediately. When I finally opened it, my father stood there. Gone was the arrogance that had humiliated me at the airport. Gone was the casual cruelty that had haunted my every step. He looked small, defeated, decades older than when I last saw him. Cynthia, please, he said, voice shaking. I need to talk. I didn't step aside. I didn't smile. I simply stared. He shuffled in slowly, as if entering foreign territory. He sat at the edge of my couch, elbows on his knees, hands trembling. No lawyers, he said. No threats. I need to apologize. I don't know how else to reach you. I crossed my arms. Do you? I asked softly. Do you even know why you're here? His throat bobbed. He swallowed like the words were physically painful. I thought controlling you was love, he admitted. I thought the boundaries I imposed, the rules, the cancellations. I thought I was protecting you. But I see now. I was only trying to control myself. My own fear of losing power, of losing respect, of losing face. I remembered the airport, the messages, the years of manipulation, the guardianship draft, the canceled flight. Every humiliation stacked like bricks in my chest. Protecting me? I whispered. By making me small? By making me powerless? By turning my life into a puppet show? He flinched. I was wrong. I stared at him. Rage still simmered, but clarity had replaced the panic. I had the power now. I could destroy him. Legally, financially, socially. I could ruin the very world he had tried to trap me in. But I didn't. Instead, I reached into a folder and pulled out a single document. A payment plan, half the money owed, stretched over 10 years, zero interest. This isn't forgiveness, I said firmly. This is closure. You don't get to be my father anymore. You don't get to dictate my life. But I won't be your executioner either. You will pay for what you tried to take, but I will no longer bleed for your mistakes. He stared at the document like it was a lifeline. His lips quivered. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me, I said. Sign it. And leave. That's the only redemption you get. He signed. Slowly. Methodically. And then he stood silent, his face pale, shoulders slumped. He walked out without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it. The weight of years of manipulation and humiliation began to lift. For the first time, I breathed freely. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his love. I needed my freedom. And that freedom was mine. The apartment I now called home overlooked a quiet river. Mornings were slow, coffee on the balcony, soft sunlight spilling across my desk, no urgent calls, no demands, no family drama. Just quiet. Just mine. I had a new job, one that didn't rely on anyone else's approval. My work mattered, my voice mattered, and most importantly, my boundaries mattered. Therapy sessions twice a week helped me unpack the years of manipulation, humiliation, and control. Each session felt like a brick removed from the cage my parents had built around me. Marcus had become more than a mentor or a guide. He had become chosen family. The person who had reminded me that reclaiming power didn't mean losing my soul. One morning, his text lit up my phone. Proud of you. You've rebuilt yourself. That's not small. I smiled, feeling the truth in it. I had rebuilt not just a life, but a self I hadn't dared to imagine. The old spreadsheet, 12 years of sacrifices, payments, and manipulated gifts, sat on my laptop. My fingers hovered over it. 12 years of proof, of control, of abuse. The old me would have clung to it, used it as armor, a weapon, a shield. The new me pressed delete. It was a small action with enormous weight. A symbolic severing of the ties that had defined me for far too long. Later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my sister. I'm sorry I didn't see it. Can we talk? I stared at the message, feeling the old impulse to rush toward reconciliation. But I didn't reply immediately. I breathed. I remembered the lessons, the boundaries, the cost of ignoring my own worth. Finally, I typed. Maybe. But on my terms. And only if you're ready to hear the truth, all of it. No anger. No desperation. Just clarity. Just control. That evening, I walked to a nearby park. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the pond. Ducks waddled past my feet as I scattered a handful of seeds. I watched them eat, carefree, peaceful. And I realized peace wasn't in revenge. It wasn't in their suffering. It wasn't even in the payments I had reclaimed or the control I had asserted. Peace was in me, in claiming my life, my decisions, my boundaries. I whispered to myself, softly but firmly. My parents texted me, walk home. I thought that was the wound. But the real freedom was walking away from the need for their approval. The river rippled gently. The ducks moved on. And I stepped forward fully, freely, into a life that was mine. The revenge wasn't the money, the canceled flight, or the humiliation. The revenge, the true victory, was reclaiming myself. Thanks for watching till the end. Do well to subscribe, like, and comment for more mind-blowing episodes.